You know, I could take a break between these, but why? I'm on a roll. Okay, so let's go ahead. So here we're initial. So I'm going to just adapt this, and rather than trying to solve this problem, I'm going to adapt this. So first off, I'm if you remember last video, I was like, I started out differently. It's like, oh, this will be simpler. I'll just initialize everything here. But you don't necessarily need to initialize everything over there. You can instead do that while you're counting things. So let's go ahead and see how that works. So what I'm going to do here is, okay, so rather than like initializing, it's just going to be blank. Okay, and so I'm going to read a letter. And if that letter is actually a letter, you know, between A and Z, now I have to ask a question because my thing is blank. And the question is, have I seen this letter yet? Which is fairly simple to ask. If letter counts not in, sorry, if letter, cut over here, if letter not in letter, if letter's not in letter counts. If I haven't seen this before, I've got to do something. And then otherwise, actually, it's not too hard because otherwise I have seen it before. It's already in the dictionary, so I can do this. I can increment it by one, right? So if I haven't seen it before, if it's not in the dictionary, if it's not a key that I've registered yet, I got to do something. Otherwise, I go ahead and just take the number of times I've seen that letter, right? I get the key, I get the value associated with that key, and add 1 to it, and store it as the new value there, right? So in effect, I'm updating the count by 1. So what do I do if I haven't seen it before? What if it's not in the dictionary? It's actually quite simple. All you have to say is, well, I haven't seen this letter yet, but I have now, and I've seen it once because this is the first time I saw it. And as you'll see, oops, so that was what? Oh, that was just me. That was just weird. Okay, that was weirdness. Okay, that was me hitting too many things on my keyboard. So that as you can see, we got the same answer, which is E. Now let's go ahead. Now, this was concerning ourselves with just things A to Z. But we don't necessarily have to do that. We could ask for, let's go ahead and say, let's just go ahead and copy this. Right? We can say, well, what if we remove this restriction of it being a letter? Most common car in the text. So for car in the text, don't care about lowercase or uppercase anymore because we're counting characters. So let's go ahead and just car counts. So, and then we can completely get rid of this statement because I'm just counting characters, uppercase, lowercase, spaces, commas, periods, exclamation points. Don't care what they are. I'm going to count them all. And I care about what the most common character is, not the most common letter. So unindent, that was Shift Tab, by the way. Selecting all and hitting Shift Tab to unindent that. So if character, and it's the same format. Whoops. So if character not in character counts, whoops, hit Control C rather than Control V, Control V, Control V, and yes, I could probably use something to do this, but I don't want to accidentally overwrite the stuff I've already done. I want to keep it that way. It's giving me nice warning saying, hey, you're trying to use a variable you haven't seen before. So now that should be fine. And now if I do most common car instead of most common letter, actually it should give us a different result. Which is, it looks like nothing, but it's actually a space. Space is the most common character in the English language because you can't write a word without a space. Unless you end it with a punctuation mark, in which case there's probably a space after it. So, yeah, that makes sense. So now we can totally do this to our Japanese text. So let's go ahead and say, comment out this thing over here. Okay. So, open Japanese.txt in read mode, and hopefully, and let's go ahead and see if we've already got our computer crying in pain from trying to do this. Okay, so this is the file. F for file here. Let's run it, and okay, nothing crying in pain yet. Let's go ahead and print F, right? It's just going to give us a text IO wrapper. It says, hey, encoding CP1250. Okay, so let's go ahead and now let's go ahead and say text is equal to, and let's just slam it all right into there. F is equal to read, which gives me the entire file stored in text. And let's go ahead and print out the first 100 characters of that. So how do I do that? Just simply slice, right? First 100 characters of that. Carmap cannot decode. Okay, so what's going on here? So what if I try to actually just print the text out? Right. So, interesting. I'm going to pause here and figure out what the solution is. Okay, so when dealing with this kind of thing, actually, it's not too bad. What I have to do is specify the encoding. Right? So let's go ahead and say encoding. See, it came up with a suggestion already. And I'm going to say it's encoded in UTF-8. See, 1 second. I got to double check that again. All right, so let's get back to recording this. Okay, so, and it was UTF-8, all one thing to say it's in Unicode. So let's go ahead and rather than printing that out. So this is just telling it how to read the file. And there we go, saying it's UTF-8, it's Unicode. UTF-8 is a type of Unicode. It's real, again, video if you're interested in it. But that gives us the first 100 characters of this text, which is awesome. So now, it actually gives us the whole text. So now we can actually throw it into our most common character. So let's go ahead and say print. Most common character in this text is, let's find out. No. So no, I mean literally it is the character no, which kind of acts as like a possessive in Japanese. So that makes sense. Just, you know, essentially. So that can be, or it's like it's an of kind of operation, relationship between two things in a sentence. So it makes sense that no would be the most common character, especially if you look, there really aren't any spaces. When you well, there are, but not nearly as many when you compare it to English, right? So that makes sense. Oh, you know, so interesting things with languages are different, but this will work on any language, which is pretty cool, right? So dictionaries are an extremely powerful tool. We will use them for counting, for categorizing, and then for key value relationships. So, and key value relationships are really useful when, say, you want to translate something from something else, right? Or if you want to convert one thing to another thing and you want to have just a kind of a list of what needs to be converted to what, which might be useful in the assignment that we're going to give out corresponding to this. Just a thought.